Shakespeare's comedy, As You Like It, is a weird one. It's got a wrestling match, gender play, and deer hunting. At one point, a character gets attacked by a snake and then a lion back to back. Additionally, I've heard some people claim that with this play, Shakespeare predicted the rise of musical theater. They claim this because it has the most songs of any Shakespeare play, 5 in total. And it sort of operates with the logic of a musical. It's organized around a series of set pieces. It prioritizes emotional exploration over plot progression. Because of this, some people find it hard to get into. But to those people, I would like to quote this Reddit post that compares the play to Superbad. The story of both is just a bunch of weirdos having an interesting day. I like that. I mean, I obviously think it's a little bit more complicated than that, but it really is just a bunch of weirdos having an interesting day. We could also think about it as a play about social renewal, or a satire of patriarchal norms, or a comment on the role that theater and imagination play in identity construction. But then again, a bunch of weirdos having an interesting day can also restitch the social fabric, critique patriarchy, and comment on the role of imagination in identity construction. These are not competing views. I've got 6 videos coming up that are going to analyze this strange play act by act, and this video will provide the historical context and background information that you may need to get started on the play. And if that sounds interesting to you at all, please consider subscribing, and with that intro out of the way, let's go through the background information of As You Like It, play by play. This isn't Shakespeare's easiest play to summarize. It has a few different plot lines, but I'll give it a go. The story starts in the court of a tyrannical usurper named Duke Frederick, who took the position from his older brother. The main action of the play focuses on 2 characters who find themselves oppressed by the governance of this duke. One is Orlando, the youngest son of Sir Rowland, who was an old friend and advisor to the old duke. The other is Rosalind, the daughter of the old duke, who was permitted to stay in town because of her friendship with the new duke's daughter, Celia. Never 2 ladies loved as they do. Orlando's brother, Oliver, keeps Orlando's inheritance from him, and so Orlando feels trapped, unable to reach his full potential, and in an attempt to make a name for himself, he fights Duke Frederick's court wrestler. And while at the match, he meets Rosalind, and the two, they've got chemistry. After the fight, Orlando's friend advises him to leave, since both Oliver and Duke Frederick will conspire to kill him. Rosalind, similarly, is told to leave by the Duke because he doesn't trust her father. In solidarity, Celia and the court fool, a funny guy named Touchstone, put themselves into exile as well. Consequently, all these characters move to the forest of Arden. And as they escape into Arden Forest, Rosalind and Celia take on new identities. Rosalind will become a boy, and Celia will become a shepherdess. Then, while dressed as a boy, Rosalind meets up with Orlando and becomes his mentor, teaching him how to love. In the end, Rosalind will marry Orlando. Celia will randomly marry Oliver, and Touchstone finds a goat keeper named Audrey to marry. It's a comedy, it ends with marriages. And that's the main action. But there are a bunch of side plots and characters as well. As I said, this is a weird one. The first thing to mention in terms of background information and historical context is that this is not an original story by Shakespeare. It's a play adaptation of a prose story written by Thomas Lodge, first published in 1590. Lodge's prose work was called Rosalind, and it included all of the major storylines and characters. That said, Shakespeare did add at least 2 characters to the story, and they're 2 of the best characters. Lodge's story does not include Touchstone, the fool who travels with Rosalind and Celia into the forest, nor does it include the melancholy Jacques, an advisor to the old duke. And these are 2 of the most memorable and engaging characters in the play. Jacques is the one who will famously deliver the speech, "All the world's a stage" in the second act. But for the most part, As You Like It is just a stage adaptation of Lodge's story, which is perhaps why it was never published in Shakespeare's lifetime. The story already existed in print. That's one theory anyway. We know that it was about to be printed in August of 1600, but a staying order prevented it from being published. People have theories about why, but nothing definitive. Some historians think that the censors may have objected to the way that Shakespeare named the character Jacques, which could have been pronounced Jakes, which was a synonym for the potty. Regardless of why it wasn't printed, the mention of the play in the staying order gives us a date for the play. We know that Shakespeare must have written the play, and most likely performed it, before August of 1600. The editors of the Arden Shakespeare believe that it was most likely written at the end of 1598 and perhaps first performed in 1599. Lots of people go on to claim that it may have been the first original play performed at the Globe Theatre in 1599, but there's no solid evidence for that, it's just a fun idea. Ultimately, the play did not appear in print until the publication of the first folio in 1623. It's one of those plays that would have been lost to time if Hemmings and Condell didn't publish the folio. So, with that historical context out of the way, let's establish some themes to read the play through. First, when we read Act 1, we're going to focus on the concept of inheritance, what we do and do not get from our parents. The play opens with Orlando upset that he's inherited a noble disposition from his father, but not the opportunities and money that come along with it. And when Shakespeare chooses to open a play with a concept like that, we should pay attention. So that's going to be the first video. In Act 2, we get our first look at Arden Forest, and so when we read Act 2, we're going to focus on nature and the pastoral elements of the play, along with analyzing what a retreat to the natural world provides for these characters. When we read Act 3, we will focus on the very real condition of lovesickness in this play. Many of the characters in this play seem to fall in love at first sight without knowing much about the person that they say that they love, and this results in lovesickness. A sort of madness that produces a fantasy of love with little relationship to the reality of love. The characters are going to need to overcome that lovesickness. They're going to need to evolve and become better versions of themselves. Arden Forest is going to serve as a catalyst for these transformations, and it's going to produce new identities more capable of love. So when we read Act 4, we will focus on those transformations. And when we read Act 5, we're going to look at the way that this play deals with gender. Rosalind performs masculinity, but she also spouts off a bunch of gender essentialist talking points. The play's treatment of gender has provoked a bunch of scholarly discourse, so we're going to put gender at the center of our discussion during the Act 5 video. And finally, in the last video of this series, we're going to discuss an important framework in Shakespeare criticism: Northrop Frye's concept of green worlds in Shakespeare's comedies. Arden Forest is a great example of this narrative structure, so I'm going to do my best to explain it through a reading of As You Like It. I hope that you'll come along on this journey and read with me. The first video will be published on Monday, and the rest will follow every Monday after that. Subscribe to be notified when those are released, and for all future deep dives into Shakespeare's plays, thank you for watching.